Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the Now Morning Show right here on TTT. We're also on the Now Morning Show Facebook page, and you can catch us live there right up until 8 o'clock this morning. Now, we're going to have that conversation about race relations in Trinidad and Tobago because there is a symposium that is coming up very soon, and that is hosted by the UWI Faculty of Law. With me this morning is Ms. Leela Ramdeen, who is the chair of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice, as well as Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine, who is a dean in the Faculty of Law, UWI St. Augustine. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. And actually, it's co-hosted. We are hosting in partnership with the Catholic Commission on Social Justice, which is why the wonderful Leela Ramdeen is with us.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm so glad that you're both here.
Professor Antoine, who I've partnered with before, yes.
Well, I'm very excited to chat with you this morning. So before we speak about the symposium itself, we're just trying to further unravel that topic of race relations and ethnicity and, the way in which we still see it being an issue, a social issue here in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, to unpack it a little more, let us differentiate, and I'll go with you first, Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine. Differentiate the difference between ethnicity and race.
That will take a whole year to discuss. Well, that's probably the simplest way that I can describe it is, for example, in the Middle East, DNA and all of those things might be the same, but they define themselves differently of ethnicity. So let's just put it that way. I don't think we have that much of a difficulty here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
And probably the simpler term to use is, Leela.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the UN Convention on Racial Discrimination, in fact, says that there's no distinction between racial and ethnic discrimination. It's discrimination.
Right.
Well, if you're talking about discrimination, all discrimination is discrimination.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
But there are parts in the world, right, exactly. But there are parts in the world which would look the same and so on, but they define themselves differently.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this symposium is hosted by the Faculty of Law, and I can't help but to ask whether, the discussion of law when it comes to race relations should come into play.
Of course, yes, very much so. Law is an integral part of it. Well, actually, I guess I'm biased, but I would say law is a part of almost every discussion. But the thing is that it's not only about law. And that is why, and we have some laws, as we'll discuss on Sunday, but that is why it is a multicultural event. We don't just have lawyers, we have eminent sociologists like Professor Reddock, we have historians, we have a journalist, we have a whole host of other persons on the panel. So, but law, yes, it is important to have law in that discussion in terms of trying to regulate behavior and ensuring that there's quality, or attempting to ensure that there's.
Ms. Leela Ramdeen, from your seat as the chair for the CCSJ, what is your input into the conversation when it comes to this symposium?
Well, we have to remember that, as Archbishop Jason Gordon, our shepherd, says in his column this weekend, this is our house. And he rightly says that it's our nation, and the nation isn't perfect, but it's up to us citizens to really recognize that the only way forward is for us to make a difference. We're the one, no cavalry coming, to help us out of this morass, with the pit we've dug ourselves in. We're the ones to do that. And as Mandela rightly said, we are one people with a common destiny, and we have to recognize the rich variety of culture, race, and tradition to embrace that diversity. So from a Catholic perspective, as one of our Vatican II documents says, Gaudium et Spes, that this racial discrimination, all forms of discrimination, is not part of God's design. He made us, as Matthew 12 says, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And that's the challenge we have. We will not stand as a nation. We will not be able to move forward. 58 years of independence. I remember my father, he was in the first parliament, and he said how proud he felt when he saw the Union Jack come down and our red, white, and black go up. 58 years onward, how proud are we of our nation? So proud that we're going to divide ourselves. Martin Daly's article was right. We drinking too much hot tea depending on the political party we belong to. You know, we have to stop that. We're not going to move forward this year worse than ever because of social media. It's been really sad reading the comments by our own Trini people.
Yeah, it really is sad and hurtful to some degree to so many people out there who would consume and see that type of content on social media. But you know, there's this symposium coming up, and tell us the root cause and the reason, Professor, you know, for starting this symposium.
So I think it's not a new issue, and I myself, my own background, my own professional background, it's an issue that I've worked with many years, but obviously during the election, and I would say since I returned to Trinidad, that notion of race relations has been, you know, I've been thinking a lot about it, and of course, like many other people during the election, got concerns of saying we must do something, university must do something, education, and then Leader Ramdeen invited me. She called me and said, I want to have a seminar, webinar, I think you call it. And I was supposed to speak on it. But I said to her, you know, it's such an important issue. Why don't we partner and have a larger event, a national event, so that we can reach more people, and the university itself wants to be able to lead the discussion, educate the public, and so on. And we are very concerned about diversity in our strategic plan. And so we agreed to partner to put on a national event, which we think will be a wonderful event.
Now, I want to know from the CCSJ's standpoint, what is your desired outcome for this? And then I will go back to you, Professor, for the Faculty of Law's standpoint on what is the desired outcome for the symposium.
Yes, well, things won't change overnight. And this thing is so deeply rooted in the psyche of people. I'll just give you an example of how deeply rooted it is. I got an award in 2016 from India, from an NRI institute. And I'm in a gathering with somebody who is related to me. You say, what? You get an award from India like this? You get award? Because I'm doing it. So this is what we call, the different forms of racism. Intentional, unintentional, institutional, individual, direct, indirect. And all forms we must denounce. And you see how easy it is for people, because it's so embedded in their psyche. Before and after the elections, when I listened to what people were saying, I realized how bad things are. For 32 years, I lived in England. I was co-chair of Britain's Anti-Racist Alliance with the former mayor of London, Ken Livingstone. So I know how dangerous it is and how it can actually lead us over the brink. And I want to say I'm proud of people like Shanice Webb, who is the president of Trinidad Youth Council, who in Weekend's newspaper rightly said that the young people are really and truly pushing back against the narrative of racism and discrimination, and that they take in charge. It's the young people really who have to take us old fogies out of this nonsense into a new world.
And from the standpoint of the university's Faculty of Law, Professor, what is the desired outcome for this symposium?
Well, the university is about public education. It's about encouraging us, and in terms of social justice that I think Leela was really talking about. Faculty of Law in particular has been very committed to that goal. I myself, as you know, was on the American Commission on Human Rights. I was a rapporteur for persons of African descent and against discrimination. So I have seen where these sorts of interventions, national and even regional, can have concrete benefits. So we are hoping, we are not, as Leader indicated, we don't think that having one symposium on race is going to solve whatever problems overnight. Of course, this is not utopia, but we certainly feel that a discussion is needed, a conversation is needed, and we have persons who have studied these issues for many years, and many of them are on the panel who have been interrogating them, and we are going to move away from the normal, perhaps the normal sorts of Facebook discussion that you see. This is not a Facebook discussion. This is really trying to get to the root of the issue. For those who've been studying it, we don't have all of the answers. And very importantly, it also provides an opportunity to get some feedback from the public in a very safe environment. So one of the first things that I did was to, and thankfully leaders on board with us, at the Faculty of Law's web portal, we created a web portal in advance of this event where members of the public can log in and they can give us their real experiences, their own personal experiences about race and discrimination. Trinidad and Tobago, and we're going to be harnessing this. Actually, I think in future that might also be good data for research, etc. But it is going to ground our conversation, and we hope that we can ask people and let people understand all of the various dimensions of racism and discrimination. Because sometimes we are unwitting partners in the whole phenomenon.
Now, as you
Can I just
said,
say that one of the things we're doing is, of course, opening the session with prayers. I think we have 11 different representatives from different faith communities who will be opening the session with brief prayers from each one. Because when we think of it, Trinidad and Tobago has so many faith communities. If we all live by the tenets of our faith, we would go a long way to building community and building the common good.
Definitely. And
I think it's important for us to say that this is going to be streamed live at the UWI Facebook page. So there are 2 links that you should look out for when you go on the page. One is the link that I mentioned where you can go to the portal and give your own experiences. And the other link will be the link for Sunday where the National Symposium is going to be on Sunday at 1 o'clock. We are streaming live on Facebook, so you need to get that link.
Is there any registration?
Start with prayer. There's no need for registration. Okay. The portal beforehand is simply if you have had an experience and you want to tell us about it, you personally, we don't want other people's or what you heard.
Right.
We want to hear your own authentic experience of racism. And many people have been logging on and telling us, and I can tell you, some have said it's cathartic. I found some of the responses quite moving. So there's a lot out there. People don't often get the opportunity to speak about these issues, or they're afraid to speak.
That's right. And Professor, before we go, we know this is just the start, and as you rightly said, one conversation and one session like this is not enough, but you do have things planned for the future. What is next?
Well, already in the university, as I said, even before Lila contacted me, we were thinking how best to do this in terms of public education. And I believe we will have some more of these kinds of discussions with different angles, for example, the business angle. And one of the good things that has happened, many of my former students and so on and others have been contacting me, also in distress. And I know already there's discussion because I've had a meeting with them about having an NGO on this issue. So there are many ways in which we can address
Professor, we're going to have to leave it there. We do have a sharp cut for the news at 7 o'clock. But I want to thank you so much, and I look forward to that symposium coming up this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine, who is the Dean in the Faculty of Law, UWI St. Augustine, as well as Leela Ramdeen, who is the Chair of the CCSJ, for joining us this morning. We look forward to that symposium, and I wish you all the best.